I'm Malia Nobriga Oliveira, and I'm tuning in from Hanapepe, Kauai. I work with Hawaiʻi Kea, the School of Hawaiian Knowledge at UH Manoa. Hawaiʻi Kea is made up of our dean's office, and our dean is Kumujano Sorio, which many of you may know. He's our alaka'i there. And then we have Kamakakua Kalani, the Center for Hawaiian Studies, Kawaihuelani, the Center for Hawaiian Language, Kapapalo'i Okanewai, as well as Native Hawaiian Student Services. So together with Kanayokana, we partner to bring this kind of programming with, to all of you. So we're just gonna take a really quick moment and allow our guests to do some quick ho'olauna, and then we'll jump into our presentation. So maybe we start with Laiana.
Iki no aloha kako. He leo velina ke ia, he leo aloha aina mai waimanalo o ahu. He leo aloha e lele a puni o ka honua, aloha aina ho'i kako. Greetings to everybody around the world who's tuning in today. Mahalo kumu malia for having us. Owawi hola ke ia o Laiana Kanoa-Wong. Proud product of the Kula Kaya Puni movement. Proud product of my two makua, Laiana Nui and Lili Noi Ke Aloha. And the two of them have raised me around Ike Hawaii, Olelo Hawaii, and so happy to get to be here today to share about something that I really love, that they helped me to grow to love, our Hae Hawaiʻi. So aloha nui kako.
Aloha, and aloha to your kupuna as well.
Hello.
You know, sending and all of the keiki too. Yeah. Are they all at home doing distance learning today?
Everybody is on their computers today, all in different spaces. Luckily, we have enough space here to spread out. But yeah, four keiki, 3 in school, and 1 running all around and is really the boss of the house. So aloha.
Oh, my kai. Aloha. Kai, come and join us and say aloha.
Hello, everyone. Mahalo, Malia, for allowing us to share our stories today. Mahalo, Kanayokana, for allowing this to happen. I'm Tai Sanga, born and raised on Honolulu, Oahu. Been a filmmaker for almost more than 10 years now, doing a bunch of documentaries and short films, and I'm the director of this latest short film, Hae Hawaiʻi. So yeah, mahalo.
Awesome. Mahalo nui, you guys. And I see some friends saying, how's it, Kumu-Wong? And then, you know, I'll give a few more shout outs here. We have friends joining from San Jose, California, Atlantic Beach, Florida, San Diego, Nebraska, Central Coast, California. You know, aloha to the ohana in California too, because I know there's a bunch of fires. And so, you know, we've been also sending pule for some ua over there and some precipitation to come to the aina and help to malama that. But yeah, are we getting started with Laiana? I think that was our ka'ina today.
Yeah, Hiki no, I can dive us into a little mo'olelo about the history of the Hae Hawaiʻi, and then I'll kind of segue it into our film that was created, that Tai helped to create. Okay?
Awesome.
So don't mind my computer slowness. I'm working on how to share screen. So I'm gonna share. I'm gonna go to PowerPoint. And then I'm gonna go slideshow.
Slideshow and play from start.
Oh yeah. Okay, hiki mai kai. Okay, so this is a short history of the Hae Hawaiʻi. We initially gave like a 3-hour presentation at Ka'iwa Kilo Moku, and it's so fun, but yet so much kind of content. So we tried to tighten it down. This was put together by an amazing team of Aloha Aina researchers. We all work at Kamehameha School's Ho'okahua, our Cultural Vibrancy Department at Kamehameha. But this was put together by Nanea Armstrong-Wasso, Maka Ala Rollins, Manu Boy, Pomaikai Benavides, and many others who contributed and supported and helped to edit and get it out there. Of course, under the leadership of Anakala Randy Fong and Anake Jamie Fong. So just aleo aloha to them who helped to put this together. But again, this is a short kind of dive into the history of our Hae Hawaiʻi. And I have here on the screen, right off the bat, one of the, my favorite moʻolelo that we've came across in the new pepa ke ko'o Hawaii. And it kind of sums up the Hae Hawaiʻi is this. He Hae Hawaiʻi ia no ka holomua, ka maluhia, ka lo kahi, a me ke aloha. And the richness of just that statement to me is so powerful. The Hae represents holomua, or progress as a nation, as a people. Maluhia, times of peace and coming together as one. Lokahi, unity and unifying as one and putting our energies towards one thing. And of course, our Hae would represent aloha. And aloha is our kanaka oiwi superpower. And so I just wanted to pull that up right off the bat about the history of our Hae Hawaiʻi. We all know that we descend from some of the greatest voyagers this planet has ever seen. Our oceanic voyaging across the Moana Nui Akea, that ancestral wisdom that links us to all of the families around this Pacific Ocean, the Moana Nui Akea, is a native ingenuity. We come from people who are constantly thriving, adding, learning, adapting new technologies, but using the skill of observation, using the ike kupuna of lessons, of stories passed down through oli, through pule, through hula, teaching us these pathways, and we descend from that. So I wanted to kind of start there to remind us of this greatness and how adapting and building towards that. Of course, when we arrived to Hawaii, nowhere else in the world really matched the level of agriculture and aquaculture, the ways that we were growing food here in Hawaii. So again, our kupuna were always striving to make the best of every situation, every place that we had and that we were. And we're so blessed to descend from these amazing people. And of course, let's not forget our loko'i'a, our fishing practices, our ohana who took care of makai all the way to mauka. So all of this balance of our ohana with these skills of observation, of learning, and passing this knowledge down through us. And so it is with pride that we get to pass on the story of our beautiful Hae Hawaiʻi with the audience. So to start off, I wanted to connect it right to the origin of the Hae Hawaiʻi, and that is who helped to create it, who commissioned the Hae Hawaiʻi, and that is Kamehameha Ekahi, or Mo'i Kamehameha Ekahi Pai'ea, born in Kohala, and many of the Kohala families sing his name with pride, and we know he unifies our moku, but Kamehameha is the propagator, the one who starts the creation of the Hae Hawaiʻi. So I wanted to kind of start with that right there to get us going. And Kumu, if you have any questions or as I go, just it might maka o nina vale mai. Taito, if you want to add anything as we go, I'm just gonna kind of blitz through it. So there are many accounts of the Hae Hawaiʻi's creation, and our kupuna were so well versed at documenting these things. As soon as they got literacy and writing in the kingdom, they started to document all of our stories, including the creation of the Hae Hawaiʻi. And so there are varying accounts of how the Hae Hawaiʻi was created. So I'm going to try to cover some of the examples as best that I can. We do know for sure, as Kamehameha is coming to power, he builds a special relationship with this Haole Kapena, and this is Captain Vancouver, who came on multiple voyages to Hawaii, including on board the ship when Captain Cook arrived. Now, Captain Vancouver and Kamehameha built a good relationship. Kamehameha, we think of him as just this fierce war general and battle master, but he was also an amazing strategist, a lover of knowledge, a seeker of new technologies. And we see that in him adapting different things into the battlefield, into warfare, and incorporating his traditional strategies with these. But as he's out there seeking ike and knowledge, Captain Vancouver and him build this special relationship. And Kamehameha asked Great Britain to keep Hawaii as a protectorate, the island of Hawaii and the kingdom of just the Hawaii island to start. And so Captain Vancouver agrees, but one of the things he leaves before he leaves Hawaii is he gives Kamehameha this hae. And this is the red ensign. And so this is a special flag. It has a Union Jack, but you notice it's not the stripes because Ireland didn't come under the powers of Great Britain just yet. And so they don't have the stripe of St. Patrick, which goes across, the blue stripe. And you see this entire field of the flag is red. So this was a special naval flag for the Pacific Fleet. And Kamehameha loved this flag. He loved this symbol And he would fly it above his residence. He would take it with him when he would travel. And so he saw the importance because he would see these on these foreign vessels. And he started to fall in love with this concept, like, oh, these are flags, these are things that would represent their country. And, you know, luckily we got to take our students to see, this is an actual document that Kamehameha signs. And this is, we are at the Royal Archives at Windsor Castle in London. We took a group of our Kamehameha school students, the ambassadors of Aloha Aina, and we got to view some of these documents. And this document that Kamehameha signs is he's continuing on the discussion about Britain as a protectorate, but he's also asking for Bunting to create the very first Hae Hawaiʻi. And so he's in the process of creating our symbol. And so this is just a little shot of that with our students. It was an honor to go there and to present the Royal Archives at our Hae Hawaiʻi that Kamehameha created, and with the book No Mako Kamana by our good friend Dr. Kamana Beamer. And so Kamehameha, he's not unfamiliar to symbols that represent royalty. Of course, we had kahili, pulo'ulo'u to mark sacred spaces, different symbols. But so he knew of these elements. He knew of the puela that would fly on board your canoe that would represent the ali'i. So when he saw the flag, his mind started to kind of run into possibilities to create one for our own people. And so the two captains who are credited with helping Kamehameha create it is Captain Alexander Adams and Captain George Beckley. And these two helped Kamehameha in different accounts. So in one account, Kamehameha creates the Hae Hawaiʻi, one to send a vessel of iliahi or sandalwood. And he wants to send it from Hawaii to Macau, China. And unfortunately, so he has the Hae Hawaiʻi created. Adams and Beckley help him to create it. And they send this vessel with the iliahi. When it reaches China, this is the first time they've ever seen that flag. They've never seen the Union Jack with all of these stripes and trying to figure it out. But they also, they tax Kamehameha's vessel and they charge them heavy harbor dues. And so they have to sell all the iliahi at a huge loss. And it's really unfortunate, but when they return to Hawaii, they inform Kamehameha what had happened. And he said, wait, tell me what is that they charge you on? Harbor dues. Oh, so you mean every vessel that comes to Hawaii, we could be charging harbor dues? And so again, Kamehameha constantly learning and growing. So he learns his lesson from that. But the Hae in one instance is created to send this vessel. But in my belief, the Hae was created as a symbol to unify our people. And this is also documented. But one more account that I wanted to cover here was when Kamehameha was flying the red ensign above his residence, an American sailor who was living in Hawaii kind of jeered at Kamehameha. He said, hey, you know you're flying the flag of our enemy, because the battle between America and Great Britain was taking place at the time. And he said, that should give me the right to take over this country. And Kamehameha says, please, sir, do not consider me a fool. I know exactly what this means. This flag is a protectorate. This country is a protectorate of Hawaii. But it also kind of drives him to want to create our own symbol. And so that's one of the other accounts that documents why Kamehameha creates the Hae Hawaiʻi. And so our beautiful Hae is created to represent the Union Jack, of course, to represent the relationship with Great Britain, and the 8 stripes to represent our 8 major islands that would connect all of the smaller islands that are a part of our Pai'aina. So of course,
Laiana, before you go to the next slide, I was going to ask this. You know, when you talked about when you guys said go Huaka'i to London, I remember seeing a lot of the blogs from some of our haumana from Native Hawaiian Student Services when they organized a holo holo to different places, and they went and visited these different places that our ali'i, our mo'i would go and visit too. And so I wanted to ask you, can you say the name of that museum again? Just in case, you know, when things open up and people can holo holo again, you know, I wanted to just throw it out there. Like, you know, instead of doing the usual kinds of touristy holo holo, like go and look at these kinds of blogs and stuff that really, that you can retrace where our mo'i have gone. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about where again?
So this was at Windsor Castle, and they house the royal archives there. And this was in a little bit away from London town. But yeah, this was a very special huaka'i. We weren't allowed to go into the actual royal archives because our group was a little bit too large. So they brought out every artifact that had to do with the Hawaiian Kingdom and the relationships between the correspondence between Hawaii and Great Britain. And we have a lot of documents. Our mo'i were interacting quite a bit with the royalty there, and they were treated very respectfully by the royalty of Great Britain. And so, so this is one of the places that we got to go. And we also went to the National Archives, which I'll cover a little bit later on. But yeah, it's very awesome to get to travel, but more when you get to see things of our history connecting us around the world and knowing that our ali'i travel to these places. Yeah, and the UH group, they were probably the trailblazers to do that huaka'i and kind of inspired our group that they went a little bit after them and started to go on that same pathway. But yeah, we hear those stories of those Hawaii Youth Abroad program that Kalakaua implemented, a brilliant plan to go out and learn knowledge of the world and come back and share it with Hawaii. So yeah, our students got to research that a little bit too before we went up.
Mahalo.
Hi. And so this painting, it might be a little bit hard to see, but this is the first account of the Hawaiian flag, the Hae Hawaiʻi, was when Captain Otto van Kotzebue arrives in Hawaii in 1816, and he's a Russian captain, and this is his documentation. So this is the first written documentation that we can find on our Hae Hawaiʻi. He documented as they displayed the English Union with 7 alternate red, white, and blue stripes, emblematic of the principal islands. And so this is the first account of our Hawaiian Kingdom flag is in 1816. So again, we can kind of link it back to Kamehameha Ekahi and 1816, the year the Hae Hawaiʻi is created. Now, the kingdom is under peaceful rule. Kamehameha's son Liholiho goes to London to try to formalize the agreement. Of course, we know that that mission is unsuccessful. He passes away all the way in London. Another sad story that we had to learn about while we were there. But his brother Kauikeuli is also seeking to continue the work of his father and his brother before him. And so this is the short mo'olelo of La Ho'i Ho'i Ea that I know was really well covered with Kumuhina and the week, and in fact, the day of La Ho'i Ho'i Ea, it was covered. And so just to kind of quickly review, Kauikeuli was put into a bind when Richard Charlton, who was representing Great Britain here in Hawaii, had a land complaint, and he filed it, and he was able to get the audience of Admiral Thomas, who sends Paulette to investigate. Now, Paulette was filled with a mindset of how dare these people basically oppress our British subjects there in Hawaii. And so he kind of came in with a different mentality, different mindset. And when he arrives to Hawaii, he doesn't recognize the Hae Hawaiʻi. He doesn't do the normal formalities of entering appropriately. And he demands a meeting. He starts to write letters demanding meetings with Kauikeuli. Now, Kauikeuli, very well versed in our history, doesn't want to go on board the ship of a hostile captain who's coming in this manner. And so he offers to send representatives to meet with him to settle this dispute. That does not appease Paulette. Paulette gets so angry after multiple correspondence. He finally says, you know, because you will not follow to my agreements, this is your last ultimatum. You will surrender the kingdom to me under the name of Great Britain, or I will open fire on your people of Honolulu. And what a tough bind to put our mo'i Kauikeuli in. Now, Kauikeuli, as we had mentioned earlier, had already been pushing to make Hawaii a sovereign nation. He had already sent Timoteo Ha'alilio, William Richards, and Sir George Simpson to secure our sovereignty recognition. So they were already en route. They had already went to America. America already signed. And at the time that Paulette was here, they were already in London and Paris area. They were already up in Europe, making their moves to secure Hawaii as an independent nation when this goes down. Now, Paulette, one of the first thing he does is once Kauikeuli surrenders the kingdom under protests, he goes and has every single Hae Hawaiʻi lowered, and in some accounts, he has them burnt and destroyed. And so you can imagine the eha of our people. Kauikeuli has to address the people. He lets them know that he surrendered the air under protest, but he asks his people to pule, to give pule, and that he was going to work diligently to make things pono. And as we know, Kauikeuli is able to get the audience of Admiral Thomas, who is a Paulette superior. Admiral Thomas comes to Hawaii to investigate, and he sees the two conflicting issues, and he realizes that his man, Paulette, is in the wrong and is not representing Great Britain appropriately. And he formally apologizes to Kauikeuli and asks him to join him at a ceremony. And they hold this special ceremony at the park that we later named after Admiral Thomas, known as Thomas Square. And so they lower the Union Jack, they raise the Hae Hawaiʻi on July 31st, 1843. It becomes our first national holiday, La Ho'i Ho'i Ea. And this triggers a huge celebration. He goes down to Kauai Ha'o Church first, and he proclaims his famous statement, Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono. The sovereignty of our land is preserved through pono actions. And they have, a few days later, they have a huge feast, a celebration at Kaniakapupu. And this is in the New Pepo, but this is the amount of food that they had at the celebration. They had a celebration that lasts almost 10 days. Admiral Thomas was a special guest of honor there as well. It was a huge celebration. The Lahui was there, the people were there, all the royal families, and those who were there to support. But there's accounts of all of the konohiki, how many things that they sent and brought. It was really well documented, but you can just see kind of how big of a party it was. And we all know our Hawaiian people, they love to party, and this was before social distancing. And so they were out there having a good time, horse races, everything that you could imagine. And so this would trigger celebrations for 50 plus years of our national holidays. The park, this is Thomas Square. It's kind of an older picture, but look at the blatant symbology of the park when you look at it. You can see obviously the Union Jack at the center of the park, and then the names. Beretania, Victoria, the queen at the time is Queen Victoria. The street Beretania is named after Great Britain. Beretania is Britain. That special relationship that Hawaii had with this country. And Thomas Square, of course, here with the Union Jack, as you can see laid out by the pathway. And so our kupuna were very intentional about it. It becomes the first park of Hawaii, Thomas Square. And today, when you go to Thomas Square, there's a statue of our mo'i Kauikeuli, his famous quote, "Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono," and a single flagpole that only the Hae Hawaiʻi will fly above. And the only time that changes is when we go and do La Ho'i Ho'i Ea celebration and we do the flag ceremony reenactment. We lower the Union Jack. We also put an American flag to symbolize that we want them to restore Ea and make things pono. We lower those two and we re-raise our beautiful Hae Hawaiʻi, and we celebrate with Mele Aloha Aina and Kani Kapu and our people enjoying it. This year was very different because of the social distancing, but we were still able to celebrate it, and the patriots who came down, and also we went digital and on our virtual platforms to celebrate La Ho'i Ho'i Ea. But this is with my ohana, the first year, at the unveiling of the Kauikeuli statue. But what a sense of pride in our history, and a history that was almost hidden from us. Now, meanwhile, Ha'alilioma in 1843, we're still on their mission. So now we're gonna flash back in time, 1843, and Ha'alilioma are still on that mission to make Hawaii a sovereign nation. And this is also symbolic. The very same year, 1843, Ha'alilioma are successful in retrieving the signatures of Great Britain and France, and they signed the Anglo-French Proclamation that recognizes the Hawaiian Kingdom as an independent nation state, a member of the family of nations. Hawaii is the first non-European nation recognized in the world. And this is, again, who we come from. We come from these brilliant, ingenuity, smart, innovative, adaptive kupuna, and who could play the game at different levels. And this document right here is our independence document. So this is the document that the world would recognize Hawaii as an independent nation from November 28, 1843 going forward. And that day is known as La Ku'oko'a Hawaiian Independence Day. Again, our students got to travel when we were there in London. We went to the National Archives, which are the different archives in the Royal Archives, and we got to see and touch and hold the Anglo-French Proclamation. And
wow.
Oh man, I still get chicken skin thinking about it and the impact that it had on me. But even these students who were learning about it, reading about it, to get to see this document. And as a Hawaiian history like lover, I was crying when I saw it, and just knowing the hard work, the sacrifice that Ha'alilio, who's such a national hero, and we should all learn more about Timoteo Ha'alilio, sacrificing, putting it all on the line to make Hawaii a sovereign nation. We got to hold that document, and our students got to see it at the National Archives in London.
That's so awesome. You know, it reminds me of when I was doing a papahana that took Haumana to Massachusetts for a program at Harvard Medical School. And, you know, while we were there, we got to go to visit some of the museums and stuff. And there in Massachusetts, they have in Boston area, Cambridge, there's a lot of our mea Hawaii over there. And so, and they let us like have all access. You know, we went in, we got to see a lot of the ahu'ula, you know, just so many things. And I can feel the chicken skin, and I still remember it. And, you know, we did oli, and just as a way to mahalo, you know, and then there was mixed feelings too, actually, from some of the haumana. They're like, Kumu, all this gotta come home. It should be home with us, you know? And so it was evoking a lot of these kinds of emotions and feelings. And so, of course, we had really good discussions. So that's what this reminds me of too.
Yeah, I was surprised that we could access a document like this. You think about like the Declaration of Independence. You can't just go and touch that at in America, you know. So it's like, oh, they let us. It was just kind of there. It was at the archives. You could call it up, and so I think we have a lot of work to do as a lahui as we start to raise the prestige of these documents. Maybe it'll help these archives to start to put it in special places, to make it a special display. But yeah, those are kind of the feelings that we get to, and it's always tricky with museums and archives, but the fact that it's preserved is also a good thing as well, for our people to see it. Like Anakala Eddie would say, Kali'o ka pa'akai. Kali'o ka pa'akai. It's all preserved, and Anake kumumali, you know, pa'akai and hanapepe. And it's preserved for us so that whenever we're ready, we can come and see it. And it was an honor to take our students there. But yeah, every Hawaiian should see and learn more about our history. But it was great to get to be there in the places that it happened. In 1845, after all of this, and the Hae Hawaiʻi is re-risen for La Ho'i, 1845, Kauikeoli standardizes the Hae, because there's different accounts of 7 stripes, 8 stripes, 9 stripes. He wants it standardized. So this is this is from a printout from the Bishop Museum Press. And this is the actual proportions of the Hae Hawaiʻi, so people can take a look at this. But what I wanted to note was the height and width of it. So you have an 8-foot height and 16-foot fly. So it's double. Nowadays we have a 3x5 flag, which is the American state standard. But if it was the Hawaiian Kingdom standard, it'd probably be a 4x8 or a 3x6 if it were gonna go with the 3-foot height. So it was always double the length, and it's a very unique Hae Hawaiʻi. It would stand out. It was so this is the Kingdom standard flag. So we still need to create Hawaiian Kingdom standard flags, because as of right now, the other flags that we fly around, most of those are actually state standard size flags, which is the Kingdom imagery, but kind of fit the proportions of the state standard. So we still have work to do in terms of reclaiming that portion of our Hae. Our kupuna just loved our beautiful Hae Hawaiʻi, and this is a reprinting of the 1862 the very first color printed flag in a newspaper, according to our kupuna at the time. The very first color printed newspaper was the Hawaiian newspaper, and the Hae Hawaiʻi being the very first color print. This is a beautiful, a lot of our students have had access to this because it was reprinted recently. But even in here, there's the documentation, the short story of the Hae Hawaiʻi being created for the vessel of Iliahi. It has a short story of La Hoʻihoʻiʻea in here as well. But it talks about how much our people, it shows how much our people love the flag. And they document in here that this was done by the keiki o Hawaii. So the kids had to, the keiki who were working in the Nupepa shop for Nupepa Kuʻokoʻa had to handprint each color of the Hae for every single Nupepa. And they took such great pride in this because they believed that at the time it was the first color printed newspaper that they had seen or had heard of in the world. And what is the first thing to print? Our Hae Hawaiʻi, that symbol of Aloha Aina, that symbol of Holomua. Of course, Kalakaua, as we're going forward in history, Kalakaua travels around the Honua. And as he goes around the world, and not a lot of people know, but he's the first head of state to circumnavigate the globe. He's greeted in everywhere that he goes with different Hae Hawaiʻi, with different symbols, with different representation. Hawaii Pona'i being played by the bands of different countries. And so he sees the level of the Hawaiian kingdom as equal, and he wants to raise raise our status in Hawaii. And the more he goes around the world, the more he is inspired. And I could kind of see that when we were in London, when he would go to see these castles, why he would want to make the palace such a spectacular place. So when he returns in 1881 or 82, after his worldwide voyage, they laid a cornerstone for Iolani Palace after that. So we can see the impact that he had when he travels the world. And the same thing for us as Kanaka. It's one thing to malama and appreciate and enjoy our place, but as we go out and learn, we bring home the best and keep it Hawaii, but add some of the ono from around the world. And Kalakaua was very much like that, creating the Iolani Palace. And of course, we fast forward to the time of Lili'u, when she comes into power. And again, I can't cover every bit of the history, but I'm gonna cover it related to the Hae. And she is stripped of her power as mo'i by the Po'ehana Ino of Hawaii, the Republic of Hawaii. You know, this is a very trying time for our people. And this is kind of where the story of our film starts to, we try to shift the narrative a little bit of the story. But Lili'u is in prison, and the transition and change is happening. The Hae Hawaiʻi is lowered, and in some accounts ripped and destroyed at a fake ceremony to recognize something that never happened, which we'll cover a little bit later. But you know, this is where our film kind of comes in around this window, the film Hae Hawaiʻi. And so if it's okay, I'll pause here and maybe pass it to Ty, and then I can wrap it up with maybe like 5 minutes of other things continuing going forward. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. So let me go to, I'll stop sharing. And okay, so Ty, tell us a little bit about Hae Hawaiʻi and your journey there.
Yeah, so usually in our presentation, this is when we transition into the short film. So instead of, and is it okay to actually play the trailer first? And then I can talk about the inspirations and maybe even some references that we kind of sprinkled throughout the movie.
Yes.
Okay. So since we can't show the movie, so folks that haven't seen the movie yet, you could probably find our film here at haehawaiifilm.com. Here's where the link for the film is. But in replace of that, we shall watch the trailer.
They have already put the queen on trial and imprisoned her, humiliated her. They will not be so kind to us.
We are at our worst. We must act now for the kingdom.
We have not stopped fighting, and we must pick our battles carefully.
I need you to trust me. I know this is confusing for you. I also cannot sit idly by while this land is ravaged by greed.
It is settled then. We move forward as planned.
Hawaiʻi. Do you?
All right. Okay. Let's see. Got a little presentation for that now. Where's the?
And I put the link in the chat, the Zoom chat, and maybe if our Kanaio Kana Kokua can also copy that and put it on our Facebook chat, that would be great.
Okay, so can you guys see the slide? So here's a little bit about the film. So, you know, I've been working in documentaries for the past 10 years, you know, and filming across the Pai'aina. You know, when we talk story with our folks, you know, and we bring up, you know, the overthrow, there's a lot of pain and suffering still attached to it, and rightfully so, because, you know, we can't forget of what happened. But I noticed when I was talking story with a lot of these folks, like they're disenfranchised. It's like they were trapped. So, you know, I wanted to create a film that would, you know, give hope, that would allow them to holomua. And it's pretty ambitious, lofty idea. But, you know, that's kind of the goals of why I became a filmmaker, you know, to shift the narrative and to give it back to us, actually. So here's some of these are photos from our first table read with the cast and crew. You know, and we talked to them about, you know, some of the goals that we have for the film. And in many ways, you know, it's a fictional movie, but kind of just like how Quentin Tarantino does his films, it's a lot of wish fulfillment. It's almost as if we had the control what would have happened. So in our film, it's about this young Hawaiian boy that is given the task to protect the Hae Hawaiʻi. And in doing so, he has to steal it from the palace during the illegal annexation. So, you know, there's a lot of, like I said, is very much wish fulfillment, but in many ways, it allows us to dive into these deeper stories, to give us access to pains that we can finally hope to heal. And it was inspired by, you know, Laiana brought it up earlier that, you know, there's a moʻolelo of the tearing of the flag after the illegal overthrow of the Hae Hawaiʻi, of Hawaii. And, you know, it's unclear of who did it, when it happened, or maybe sometimes even if it happened. But we knew that event would allow us to kind of give us access to this narrative and to tell the story very poetically, actually, because, you know, we were limited to a short film. It's under 17 minutes long. I try to jam in so much ike in it as much as we can. But we knew that we could at least sprinkle some ideas throughout the film, and then, you know, it'll allow for deeper discussion afterwards. So some of the goals that we wanted to do for the film, you know, is to provide a short film that is engaging and captivating, that would allow audiences to like want to dive in deeper into our history. And like I said earlier, the part of that healing, that process comes through that. But also, you know, for us, it was about education, and it's really kind of rare for a short, I mean, a narrative film to talk about education. It's usually in documentary forms, you hear that. But for us, it's different. Like that's the reason why I became a filmmaker. So a lot of our screenings here in Hawaii, you know, we always paired it very much like this presentation. We screened the film, and Laiana would do his presentation about the Hae Hawaiʻi, and we talk about our history but it's beautiful because like every time we do the screenings, like you could tell everyone's hungry. They want to know more. They want to know about our Hae. They want to know about their history. And that was the goal, you know, to show that, you know, we have a talented cast and crew here in Hawaii. You know, as Native Hawaiians, we're able to finally be able to tell our own narratives, you know. So some of the references that we tried to sprinkle throughout the moʻolelo, and, you know, like I said, it's a short film, under 17 minutes long. This event basically takes place from, you know, after the illegal overthrow in 1893 until the illegal annexation in 1898.
No annexation, fake annexation.
Right.
Sorry, kalamai.
No, that's my kai. So we sprinkled a lot of this little references within the film to allow for deeper discussions afterwards, you know, or even if audience members are like, oh, I saw that moment, I know that history, you know. So I wanted to place in, you know, these bits of like, you know, the quoters, you know, how important they were in our history of once the flags were destroyed, you know, they were the ones that were able to weave the Hae Hawaiʻi to place in our homes, you know. We placed that the secret meeting into the film to show that, you know, like back then, you know, we weren't allowed to congregate to have meetings publicly. But in that meeting, this is actually our favorite film to shoot, because, you know, we talked about, you know, the queen being arrested. We also talked about the rebellions that were going on. And that scene was actually much, much longer. And we had to strip it all down just to kind of tell this concise story. We even, you know, our talented Mehana Hind, you know, she has the beautiful oli of Ehihoana. You know, we wanted to incorporate that, which like that oli, that prophecy of Kapihe into this movie. You know, it adds another layer of fun discussion that, you know, people can kind of talk about. And then that, like I said, the fake annexation that Laiana mentions. There's so much things that happened on that day historically that I actually wanted to incorporate into this film, but we couldn't. You know, maybe we'll do that in our second film or even the TV series that we eventually do or something like that. But that's, you know, we wanted to at least highlight that because hopefully that, you know, like when that event happened, they were writing the narrative, you know, the conspirators were writing the narrative. But for us now to share our moʻolelos, there's a lot of the stories that were hidden from the public during that time. That's all in the Nupepa. So, you know, like hopefully people can uncover that and find the richness in there and start that healing. And I try to keep this very spoiler free because I wasn't sure who has actually watched the movie yet. But this next slide, which is my last slide, kind of has a spoiler. So maybe you can mute this moment and then we can kind of jump back into Q&As and back to Laiana's presentation. But for this part, I wanted to end with this little mana'o, is that the end of the movie, you know, we put the Hae Hawaiʻi in the ana, in the cave. And this is just me being filmmaker, I guess. But for me, it was, the mana'o behind it was that, you know, as this viewers watching this film, you know, if they've gone into this entire experience, you know, hopefully they feel some emotions from it. But so as they're putting the flag into the cave, you know, they're putting, what I'm hoping I'm doing is putting it in each and every one of the viewers that are watching this film. So the Hae Hawaiʻi is now with you. So it's your kuleana to you know, e velo mau ka Hae Hawaiʻi, how do you let it wave? How do you continue the lahui? And yeah, so that's really the mana'o behind this movie and what we were hoping to tell with this short film.
Awesome. Mahalo nui. Yeah, I was able to watch it again recently. And as you shared earlier, and we shared it in the links, go to HaeHawaiiFilm.com, yeah? Yeah, and go check it out. You know, it's a 17, like Ty said, a 17-minute short film. It's better than watching some of the stuff we see on social media. It's better than a lot of the stuff we see there nowadays. And was HIF, yeah? On HIF's site, there's a whole bunch of shorts that you can go and watch. And, you know, if you're looking for some good media for your ohana to watch this weekend, go check out Hae Hawaiʻi, and then there's all these other shorts and stuff from different countries.
Yeah, actually, the link that is shared, if it actually it links you back to the HIF website. So from there, you should have access to other. It's mostly, I think that link has all Pacific Island films. So there's a few Hawaiian films, but and other Pacific Islander films in there.
Yeah, it was a special process. Ty and the team just so amazing, Kumu. Because as you know, we're Kumu, we're educators, we've been in that realm, but to be able to take it to media and to film, it's such a fun transition because it incites a lot of different thinking and it creates a new visual map for people to see. So it's neat to work in that medium, and it was an honor to get to kind of to watch Ty at work and to see the magic happen, and from script to concept, or from concept to script to the filming to editing to cleaning it and to watching it at Do Cannery or at Hawaii Theater. Yeah. And to see it play was such an honor to see a product and go from that level. Yeah, so mahalo Ty and Kumu for letting us share. Kumu, can I give a little bit more of the history, because it has to wrap.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a part of. It's such a part of this storytelling that, you know, when we have the mo'olelo of our kupuna who would quilt the Hae Hawaiʻi, and ali'i and people of nobility who wanted to be buried or who wanted to die under the Hae Hawaiʻi. This is the love that our people had for our beautiful Hae Hawaiʻi. Of course, we had the aloha aina hats with the Hae Hawaiʻi, the pins. People were wearing the hae and using the hae as a form of ku'e and resistance. And mele, they were using mele as a form of resistance. Of course, mele aloha aina, ke kua ohiwa kalani Pendergrass writes kaulana na pua. I mean, so we're starting to resist using our skills, our magic. This is the palapala that she was opposing. It's the palapala to kind of sign over your allegiance to provisional government. So kind of, I mean, this is what they were fighting. I wanted to bring it to this slide as well. During this time of the ho'ohuli, our president of Kamehameha Schools and founder, the husband of Bernice Pauahi Bishop, Charles V. Bishop, says there's one matter upon which he wanted to cover, and this is in the minutes during the overthrow, right after this happening. He says, whatever was the outcome of the present state of political affairs, he hoped that the Hawaiian flag would always be the flag of the Kamehameha Schools. It is to be remembered, and always to be remembered, that these were the Kamehameha Schools, and the Hawaiian flag was the flag of the Kamehamehas. And just stuff for us to think about, that even through all of this turmoil, he knew that the Pono thing was our high should always be the high of our lahui. You know, there was a reason why we didn't notice in our history. And it was a process known as denationalization. When there was no annexation, so I'm not going to cover that because it was a joint resolution. That's a whole nother presentation for other scholars to share. But they lower the flag, they have it ripped and destroyed, and they start to push out this concept that Hawaii has been annexed. And then they start to inculcate through education. And this is the power of education if we use it in the wrong way. But this is the actual program to execute Americanization in our schools. And they called it the American Inculcation Program. And so they were inculcating American patriotism to all of our keiki. Of course, we hear the stories of banning our olelo Hawaii, of oppressing our culture. And then on top of that, they were forcing us to be good Americans. And you would have all of the keiki holding their hand up, facing the Hae Amelika, saying, we give our heads and our hearts to God and our country, one language, one flag. Just imagine the eha of our kupuna, of these keiki who are being force-fed this Americanization. There was all of these policies that the schools had in place, patriotic songs that you had to do, stories about their presidents, and kind of forcing our Hawaiian population of the kingdom to become American. And this is a huge war crime known as denationalization. But mahalo to our kupuna who came before us, who fought and resisted and persevered and brought things back like voyaging, like hokule'a, like kaho'olave and stopping the bombing, using aloha aina. These things would rally the movements of today like Mauna Kea, and aloha aina being the symbol and the ku'e to rally together, to stand as one, to fly our Hae Hawaiʻi. We cannot forget the impact of our charter and immersion schools, our punanaleos, of planting Ike Hawaii and these are the leaders that are at the forefront of these Mauna Kea movements. We're restoring our national holidays. La Hoʻihoʻi is celebrated throughout Hawaii. Even on Moku Keawe, different islands are celebrating. Even in New York City, our celebrations are coming back. We're celebrating them in our schools. This is at Kamehameha schools. We're starting to restore La Ku'oko'a, La Ho'iho'i'ea. These are all the entire middle school campus march for La Ku'oko'a and all through the campus to recognize our national holiday. So it's starting to come back, but it has to happen at home in our families. And this is a little picture of my ohana with my tutu, my dad, and my wahine, and my 4 keiki. And right after me and Ty gave a presentation similar to this while showing the film at the Academy of Arts. But yeah, it starts within us and our families. And like Ty said, we plant the flag within each of us through our knowledge, through the ike. And now it's up to us to velo. And how do we malama? How do we care for our beautiful Hae Hawaiʻi? And so just with that, the reminder, he Hae Hawaiʻi ia no ka holomua, ka maluhia, ka lokahi, a me ke aloha.
Ooh, mahalo nui. Yeah, when you shared that quote earlier, I wrote it down, and I'm mahalo that you brought it back up, because I think those are some really good reminders for us today. You know, the holomua, maluhia, lokahi, and aloha. You know, and those 4 values to really be implanted in us in this time, because we're experiencing a different type of hulihia, you know, in our world today. So, you know, we usually have a lot of kumu and makua who are doing homeschooling and stuff with their ohana. I was wondering if they wanted to ho'omau this ho'onui ike, you know, to continue this learning knowledge, where would you direct them to go? To, you know, because maybe this is just starting their journey on learning about the Hae Hawaiʻi.
You know, there are a lot of good resources out there. And the best thing is Native Hawaiian scholars who have risen up, kind of like Ty, with movies to reclaim our voice in history. And so there's a lot of really good things that you can find online by amazing authors and doctors and leaders of our community. But the HawaiianKingdom.org weblog, those things have a lot of really good information. Kanaio Kana has a lot of awesome information, and they're building their bank of Hawaiian knowledge of our history as well. As quick resources, this presentation that I just gave, Oha did one that we put it together in about 15 minutes under Mehana's leadership. So that's another thing that's out there, easy to find. But yeah, the pursuit of knowledge never, ever ends. And we're constantly, even us, we're constantly learning and growing. But there is a lot out there for us to learn and to grow, because the more we learn about our history, for me, it's so empowering. I feel so much more strong knowing that our kupuna have persevered, have sought these things out, and we're able to establish these things for us, that's within us. And just like those kupunas I showed, voyaging, farming, fishing, that is us too. We come from greatness, and it's up to us to make that image for the next 1,000 years. And so seeking knowledge is something, Kumu, you helped to plant that in us too as young students. And this program is helping to plant that. Ty, we're doing that through movies. You know, we're all finding our pathway to velo our high. And yeah, it's a lifelong process, but there's so much out there, Ohana. You guys can do it, and any way we can kako. There's a lot of good resources. Even Kaiwa Kilo Moku, we're building a new website that'll be coming out soon with a lot of great history and mo'olelo. So there's a lot that is being developed and that are already in existence today.
Mahalo. Ty, any mana'o? Like, what about for some of our haumana that are interested in this media world and creating short films or you know, just putting things like this together? Because nowadays it's so easy. Yeah, you grab your phone. The quality of our phone videos and stuff are really good. You can even edit a whole film on your phone. I don't know, what would you say to some of these haumana as projects for them? Oh wait, you're muted.
Yeah, they're so lucky now, because I mean, I think for me, I started filmmaking really late in my career, which was sometime in college. You know, there's some of my peers, they knew immediately once as kids they wanted to be filmmakers. So a lot of these haumana today with their cell phones, they can make a movie easily. And a lot of it is just about doing, to be honest. They have to we're so ma'a to what is a narrative because we're consuming so much ideas, and they already know by themselves like how language works on film. So they just need to start like grabbing a camera and start filming themselves, filming their friends. Short stories, you know, it's best to keep it short at first, because then you realize all the hurdles you have to jump through. And when I say short, sometimes like 3 minutes long is like a lot actually. And by doing that, you know, you learn the process, then you learn what's easy not easy, but you learn how to kind of handle the medium, because the medium is actually the hard part. Like knowing the light, there's so much variables involved. The lighting, the sound, you need a good mic. And sometimes editing is also another big process. So just taking a baby steps, because if they're starting now at Haumana, you know, in elementary or even intermediate school and high school, they're way advanced than I was as a filmmaker. So, yeah.
Awesome. You know what, that made me think of, no matter if you're creating films or doing research or just anything we do in life, I think finding a hoa, you know, like a mentor that can help you through the process, coach you through the process. And maybe it's just a kua'ana. It's someone a little older than you that may have experienced it already. Maybe it's a makua, an auntie, grandma, you know, and connecting and forming these kinds of relationships. I don't know, any closing mana'o before I bring up my slides? Maybe Laiana?
Just again, kumu mahalo for this platform, because this is another form of getting our ike and our knowledge out there to our lahui, and to create this today. This will be the things that our mo'opunas will look back at and get to see. Yeah, we're constantly evolving lahui, and so just challenging our people to remember to give just aloha, not to forget aloha. And gonna always have trials and tribulations, but aloha is really our superpower. Aloha aina is what makes us unique. And let's not forget that love for this place and all the blessings that we've been given, and the work that we have to make it better for our keiki and our mo'os and great-great-grand mo'os that we don't see yet. And so ho'onui ike, ho'omauku kako olelo. Mahalo nui for creating this platform for us to get to share a little bit of our history and a little bit of this awesome film. Please go check out the film, HaeHawaiiFilm.com. To our people out there, it's free right now, so we want you guys to watch it and enjoy it with your families.
Mahalo. Tai, any closing mana'o?
No, very much what Laiana said. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo for allowing us to share this mo'olelo. Especially now that we're all stuck at home, you know, and the teachers, not even teachers, just I know even some of my friends, they're like, "Ooh, let's look something up," and they're accessing this right now. So mahalo Malia, mahalo Kanaio Kana, mahalo Makana for organizing all of this. You know, really grateful. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm thankful that you guys are able to come and share this mo'olelo, and I know we always have so much other things we can talk about too, and I hope you guys will consider coming back. Because, you know, Lei Ānuenue will continue, and ho'omau, and yeah, mahalo again. This is great. Okay, so I have a few more closing slides here. Let's see. Okay, so as usual, we ask all of you to kokua by letting us know what you thought about today's episode, today's show, and just it takes a few minutes to answer a few questions. You can go to kanaiokana.net/survey, and if you want to stay connected with us, you can share your email, and that's optional. But you can also just, you know, we want to know and be honest with us on maybe any other topics you might want to learn about. Okay, and you know, we have Lei Ānuenue and Aikole shows every Friday, 9 a.m. for us, and Aikole is at 12 p.m. If you haven't tuned into Aikole show yet, those are moʻolelo Hawaii, so it's always good to ho'olohe ka pepeao and just be, you know, be able to aikole with our friends. I'm excited for, you know, every every one of these episodes. And then we also partner with so many others, you know, like Ahakane. They're doing an episode in the afternoon as well at 2 p.m. So you can check out the schedule by going to kanaiokana.net/lei and just finding out more information there and what's coming up. Every week we update it, so you can get the best updated schedule there. Again, a big mahalo to Tai as well as to Laiana for sharing moʻolelo today. For all of our partners, I didn't mention this earlier, but when we go live on Facebook on Kanaʻi-o-Kana's page, we go live on Hawaii Nui Akea, CNHA, OHA, Mana Maoli, so many partners, Weavy TV. So stay connected with us because that's how you can find out the most updated information about all of our different programs. Follow us on Facebook as well as on Instagram, and just stay connected with us, and be safe this weekend. Have fun in your little bubbles, of course. And just sending aloha to all of you. And yeah, ke aloha nui e nā hoa.